pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. I've been on the flex since flex zone. Neighborhood all in your eardrums. I ain't never scared like Bone Crush. Boy, I got God, don't fear none. My line busy, take no calls. Feels like I don't have no flaws. Snakes in the grass, cut those off. Yo, squad shitty, my bros raw. No breaks, we go, 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 go. Throw shade, that's a no, 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 no. Go high, go low, low, low. Like spinning in a 644. Cash money like 504. Ball like AD24. No sleep, need more, more, more. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. Ooh, I'm a real one, my day ones. Try speak up, can't say none. Try dig dirt, there ain't none. I make the money that save up. 10 to 80, my save ons. Take to the top on the base one. New car, race on. Fast lane, pace on. With the booyah, that's a flex. Not human, I ain't from another planet. I'ma teleport, might vanish. I'ma wake up, do damage. Jordan number 7, he's bored though. Working all night, need more though. I remember nights I was poor though. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
Good evening. Good evening. Hello, community. How are you guys doing tonight? I hope you are doing well. Make sure audio is all solid and we are good to go. Welcome. Welcome to our very, very first community time. I am massive on community, more so than I think a lot of other, podcasters, are. I think that podcasting for me is all about community. It's all about helping people get from one spot to the next. And the only way, I'm going to make sure I get this going on. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to be able to connect with people. So I hope you're ready. We're going to have a nice little chat tonight. If you want to join the stream, you want to jump on, please don't hesitate. We are going to be here and talking on a few things. Probably won't be here too long tonight, but we're going to go ahead and get started in a second. Boom. There we go. All righty. I hope you guys are doing good tonight. It's Monday, man. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope you are productive this weekend. I hope you have been able to get a lot accomplished this weekend. Man, we got a lot of stuff going on, dude. End of the year, for my main job that I do, Dayside, super busy. But everything that we have going on from a podcaster's live standpoint, man, oh man, dude, we just got some killer stuff going on. We're going to talk a little bit about it right now. Just a couple of previous shows. So last week, of course, we had Mr. Victor from Basic Nas on last week. Did a great job in talking about creating our NAS, our network attachment system. I actually have it set up over here to my right. I took a chair out and I actually added another bookshelf for some more storage and for some gear, some clothes and stuff like that. And we'll be talking about that on part 2. So I'm excited about that. And if you're in the community, say hello, say hi. Just want to make sure I acknowledge everybody that's out here listening. And if you want to come on board for the live stream, please don't hesitate. And then, of course, another previous episode was with my buddy, Ash Borland. You can go right to our YouTube channel and check out both of these episodes as well. And Ash and I talked about the 10 mistakes that podcasters make. Great episode coming up this Wednesday. This Wednesday, right? We actually have Junaid Ahmed and James Hicks. I am stoked about this, right? Because we are going to be talking a little bit about technology, but we're also going to be talking about how to grow your podcast using technology and also live streaming, which is quintessential to everything that we actually talk about. Everything we talk about from a podcaster's live piece. Hey, if you are thinking about, joining a channel, if you are not currently part of our YouTube channel, I ask that you go ahead, go to our channel, you go to Podcasters Live, and if you want to share the information with someone who is a podcaster, who's thinking about, who has issues with kind of growing their audience, which is exactly what we talk about with Podcasters Live, we ask that you go ahead and do that and share our channel with them. Because if you're in the community, I just did a post and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different things. But if you have somebody and you know that they're interested in some of this, go ahead and share our channel with them. Speaking of community, our Facebook community is growing. It sounded by leaps and bounds, right? It sounds like Superman, but it is growing exponentially, and I'm excited about the people that we actually have in the community, because everybody that's in the community, they're excited about what Podcasters Live, the value that we can add for them and their journey as a podcaster to help, once again, grow their audience and enhance their brand. And that's exactly what we focus in on as well. The only way that we're able to do any of this stuff from a production standpoint, presentation, everything, is through Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live is the choice for me for our live stream software that we currently use. And listen to me, I have gone through all of them. When we launch our website, we are going to be launching with about 4 or 5 blog posts, which I honestly feel are going to be amazing. We actually may have more, because I'm going to probably divide a couple of them up. And one of them is going to be talking about the top five live streaming platforms. But unlike a lot, well, I'm not going to tease you. I'm going to let you know that we have that blog post, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the top 5 actual live streaming platforms out there. So I'm pretty excited about that one as well. All right. So just to acknowledge everybody that's in it, that's out there today. Hello. How are you, sir? They say yes, sir. They say yes, sir. Mr. James Hicks in the place to be. How you doing, sir? That's right. I needed one of the things I realized. I went through some analytics with some of our live streams. I don't know if James, if you're still there, say I'm still here, because this one is going to be definitely for you. You're going to get this one. And I a lot of my audience is men. It's fine. It's male. Not too many. I won't say not too many, but there's some women out there as well. So what I realized was that, and I'm going to say this actually on Wednesday as well, when they're actually on this live stream, was I needed some eye candy, right? I needed some eye candy. So look, if you want to look at these two guys. Look at these two guys, dude. That's Stud City right there, man. Look at James looking off into the distance, very longingly, and Junaid, like, just come on, man. He's perfect. He's a beautiful man, right? So I needed some eye candy. I needed some eye candy to help with my numbers. I'm so joking. They're like the hottest nerds, right, out there, right? Tech guys. So it's gonna be. I can't help it. That's When I was putting this together, when I was creating this, I kept thinking that I was like, look at these dudes. These are some good looking dudes, man. They're gonna up my female viewership. Just these two dudes coming there. I had to say it, man. I had to say it. I'm excited to have you on there. What's up, Mr. Matt? How are you doing, sir? Good to see you here tonight. Thank you for joining us as well. Yay, Ecamm. You're darn right, man. Ecamm is no joke. Ecamm is no joke, man. We actually have I'm creating a whole bunch of different episodes and live streams and some tutorials and some things like that. Speaking of tutorials, I'm gonna ask the community whoever's gonna be here live, but also I'll post it in the community. We are going to be creating something coming in January, and I wanted to get your perspective on it. I asked James, he was no help. He admittedly said he was no help when I asked him the same question, which was kind of funny, but it's kind of cool. You're hilarious. Thank you, sir. I am. I try. I pride myself on being a little funny here, but so the community time. One of the things that we want to do within Podcasters Live is provide an opportunity and a platform. The one thing that we will probably do different, I won't say, than a lot of other communities, is that other than when we're doing an interview and connecting with a guest. Now, when we do our Sunday streams, and when we do this community time, right? You are welcome. You as a community member are welcome to say, "Hey, Steve, I want to jump on. Hey, Steve, I just want to hang out and chat about podcasting and chat about live streaming, chat about how to grow both, right? All of that stuff, right? So if you're willing to do that, this is the community for it. Here's why. Because I want to get people comfortable with the prospect of live streaming, because it's so important that you get the reps in, you get the practice in. Yes, we're talking about practice, not a game, but practice. And the only way you're going to do that is sometimes just jumping on and having a dialogue with somebody. And my goal is to alleviate some of that stress with having you actually on the podcast, on the live stream, where we can actually just chat and that's it. I don't like the transition on this one. This is why I love live streaming, because if I don't like something, I can actually just go ahead and change it like right now. I don't like that transition on that one, because actually I don't have a transition on that one. How cool is that? This is why I love live streaming. I don't like that one either. I like the slow. Which? I like this one. I like the slow, like this one. Ah, there we go. There we are. There we are. That's the cool one right there. All right, excellent. So I love live streaming, especially if you feel comfortable doing it, because you can do stuff like that. If you don't like something, you can go ahead and make the adjustment on the fly, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Yesterday we talked a lot about we did the podcast tips yesterday, and hopefully you're able to that question. Oh, before I get started, that question: do you have a Rodecaster Pro? I do, sir. I do, sir. Yes, I do. I do, and I can probably change. I'm gonna see if this one's gonna work. I'm rocking some shorts here, so bear in mind. So yes, I do have a Rodecaster Pro right here. I apologize for this. This is a little light that I use sometimes. But yes, I have my Rodecaster Pro that's actually on the side over here, that I know and love, and I have been enjoying it ever since I got it. Ever since I got it. Do you have one, sir? Are you thinking about getting one? Let me know in the chat if you do. Um, the one thing that I did when I was podcasting, and actually, the interesting part was I wasn't even part of the Ecamm community yet. I wasn't even part of the Ecamm community yet, but I was getting gas, as I was going through this journey of being a podcaster, and also kind of um, understanding that I wanted to enhance my production quality. I wanted to enhance my sound, all these different things. And so what I started to do was I set myself goals. So one of them was a download goal. So when I hit a certain number of downloads, I treated myself to the Rodecaster Pro. And having said that, well, no, actually, the Rodecaster Pro was second. The first one was a different mic. It was a Shure MV7 because it had the XLR cable, but it also had the USB. And so I was actually going right into my iPad when I first started. So I was using my Shure MV7 going directly into my iPad, and actually I recorded directly into Shure has a Shure actually has uh, a recording platform that you can use, and honestly it was actually pretty good. So I recorded directly into that, and then I put it into Audacity, and then I actually did my tweaking with the sound and all of that stuff too. And then I hit another set of downloads, and I actually got the Rodecaster Pro. So all right, so you have do I have a Rodecaster Pro? You have one. You have a question. Yeah, what is the question, sir? Another streamer mentioned that he had 3 guests on a live stream, and the Rodecaster recorded the tracks of all separate tracks. Yes, that's not possible. I don't think that is possible. On the Rodecaster Pro, not unless now you can record in multi-track, right? You can't record in multi-track. I'm not sure how that works with when you're doing a live stream and you're recording all 3 people. Now, here's the one thing. I know that I actually did one episode where I actually had like 2 people in my office here, and we were able to, of course, we had it all set up in, with the XLR cables. Now that immediately, of course, allowed us to have separate tracks on there. I'm not particularly sure when you're doing a live stream if you can do that. Says another live streamer mentioned that. um I want to I'm gonna put this. I don't like, no, actually, here's the thing. All right, just gonna put it big. Another live stream. Yeah, I don't, Matt, I don't. I mean, you can have one track to the USB on your phone. Yes, right, correct. Right, yeah, one on your phone, one of your Bluetooth, and one to each XLR. 100%. Now that takes a lot of work. That's a lot, right? You're 100% correct. Now, if you do have somebody that is on your calling them Bluetooth, and then you have somebody that's on your phone, you can actually do all of those different connections, of course, and have 2 to 3 different people that are actually going to be on there. And my thought is, at that point, you can actually do the multi track. However, live streaming, I, I'm not particularly sure if you can do that from a live stream standpoint. But we were not in the same room. All were remote. Hmm. Was this streaming? Um, was he telling a lie? Lie's a big word. I'm not gonna say lies. I'm not gonna say lies. I suppose he was saying that the Restream recorded the track separately, or maybe Ecamm was doing it, but the Rodecaster Pro, no way. Yeah, I honestly I agree with you, because of course we know you're an Ecamm guy, right? You're Ecamm. Is that Ecamm, of course, records the separate tracks, which is one of the things that we're going to talk about when we do Ecamm live for podcasters, is that they have the ability, depending on if they use Audacity. I use Hindenburg Journalist Pro. Actually, I think they dropped the Journalist, and I think they just went to Hindenburg. Then you get Hindenburg Pro, and I use it. It's a pretty pricey software, but it's super intuitive. It's non-destructive, and so you're able to, of course, separate each track. So whenever I do like a live stream, like let's just say this coming Wednesday with James and Janae, I'll have, of course, the three separate tracks, and I'll input the three separate tracks into Hindenburg Pro. Now, one of the things that, since I don't have time anymore, um, and I found somebody, a great person to edit it, is that I'll put it in there. I'll actually, and what I'll do what kind of part of my workflow with what I do. So let's just say it was just my podcast, and I'm editing it myself. I didn't send it out to somebody. What I typically would do is edit the podcast in Hindenburg Pro, and then I don't add too much um, effects or EQ to too much of it. Now, if the sound quality of the guest is bad and there's some actual noise in the background when they're speaking, Hindenburg Pro allows me to add some noise cancellation to that separate track, not just the whole thing, but to that separate track. So I'm able to allow them to come across a lot clearer. And if they're a little low, I can actually add volume, of course, to that track. So I do some editing, some massaging of whatever it may be, and then from there, I actually take, say I love the final edit, and then what I do is I export it and I do Alphonic, and I make sure that the LUFs are at 16. I send it through Alphonic, and I get the final piece. I love it. Typically sounds great because I've already did the leveling with the sound. Um, for the guests, and we all should be at a really good level based on kind of podcast standards, if you will. Send it through, upload it on my host site, and I'm good to go. So yeah, man, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one, man. You know, so is the audio quality good using Ecamm for podcasts? Back in the day, I used Skype, and oh man, that produced a clean track. I suppose all modern services are equally good. What do you think? I do. I actually think it's actually really good. Um, now, so my journey was Zoom. Started with Zoom, doing uh, all of my episodes from a podcasting standpoint with a guest. Horrible, 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 horrible. Like audio quality, picture quality wasn't that great either. But I was just starting. Actually, got videos. I showed videos yesterday of me actually just starting when I first started out. It was actually in the same office over here in this little on this side of the office in this little corner, which was kind of crazy. And then um, and then I went to StreamYard. Enjoyed my time with StreamYard. Then I found Riverside.fm, which was great because they did separate tracks with your audio, but they also, here's the cool part that they actually did too. They did separate tracks, and maybe this is a feature request for Ecamm. They did separate tracks for your video too, which I thought was actually pretty. No, no, yeah, no, they did separate tracks for your video as well, so you can actually cut out. You didn't have to worry about cutting out pieces. You can actually have separate videos of just your guests, which was actually pretty cool. However, the picture quality as you were recording in Riverside wasn't that great, and it just kind of threw me off. And there were just some production things that I wanted to level up on, and so I found myself to Ecamm. I kind of made that story a lot longer, but I didn't want to. Yeah. Oh, dude. Yeah. Zoom is super yucky, man. It is super yucky. Uh, let me. It's. I like to. I'm gonna do that on the fly real quick. It is super yucky, and I just didn't like. Here we go. That's what I was looking to. That's what I was looking to do. Perfecto. It's super yucky, and it just doesn't. It doesn't meet you. I guess it meets the needs of those individuals who are out there and they want to get started. So that's what it was for me when I got started. Doing my interviews, it was the perfect solution because it was free, and then when I started doing more, I had to pay a little bit more, and it was still cheap, to do it. I was already doing Zoom with work and all of that stuff as well too. So podcast hosting. Oh, great question. Great question. Great question. Great question. All right. So I'm gonna say this, and I don't care who's using it, and I apologize. You may want to, if you leave the group, you may leave the group. So apologize. I started out when I first started. I started out with Anchor. I would never do Anchor again. I would never do Anchor. I am not a fan of Anchor. Sorry if you do Anchor. Um, there's so many different things. There's so many different things. And yeah, there's a lot going on there. I currently use, let me see. I went straight from Anchor to Buzzsprout. I use I use Buzzsprout for retail leadership with Steve Worthy, my podcast, and I've been using them ever since. And here's why I like Buzzsprout. It's because they are actually. I'm not saying that a lot of these platforms out there they're not this. A lot of the Buzzsprout people are podcasters, and they are at the forefront of a lot of different things from a podcasting standpoint: technology, dynamic insertion, the tagging locations aspect of your podcast, so that it would help with discoverability, chapter markers, all of those pieces. They are truly, I want to say, almost at the um, when you find a company, it's almost like a company, like a business company that's actually kind of creates the standard within an industry. Say Apple, if you will, right? Phone wise or whatever. Maybe because I'm a U.S. bias, but I know that the majority of the world actually uses Android. However, they have created a standard from a phone standpoint. So when you find a hosting company that's actually kind of helping write policy, if you will, I find that that's actually really cool. There's another company that I've been looking into because with Podcasters Live, we will be actually, what's wrong with my camera? The angle. There we go. We will be doing, and I've already recorded like 2 episodes, we will be doing an actual audio podcast for this as well. Now, I did it on Buzzsprout too, but Captivate.fm is another one that I've been looking into. I like what they're doing. Um, I like Mark Aswith, who's the CEO. He had a podcast and a video podcast, and I really like what he was doing. I may be thinking about putting the Podcasters Live audio podcast on Captivate.fm. The only reason I'm thinking about doing it too is because they are truly at the forefront of writing policy, if you will, for um, for podcast hosts. They're at the forefront. Them and Buzzsprout, Libsyn. A lot of people like Libsyn, things like that. Um, but Buzzsprout and then probably Captivate.fm are the ones that I always thinking about. Ooh, large day, get large morning. Um, I roll my own. WordPress hosts the RSS, but the MP3s are hosted on Amazon. And oh yeah, well, it's kind of bulletproof, kind of nerdy, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, you know what? Honestly, I could probably do it myself with this Nas that I got. Um, I can do my own, website hosting. I was actually thinking about that too, because my entire podcast, my entire website, both websites, Worthy Retail U, and also uh, Podcasters Live when we launch. They're all WordPress, and Brittany Gaynor is our designer. And if you like what you see, let me know. I can set you guys up. Am I crazy? No, I don't think you're crazy, man. I think it all depends on what you want to get out of the hosting experience, right? For me, there a couple of things. It was that I don't know. I guess I didn't want to put the legwork and time in, but you do. You're so much more savvy, technology wise than I am. So that's probably that for you was probably like easy. Like you probably did that like in your sleep. And for me, I just didn't have the time. Don't have the time to do that. And I want the highest quality outsourcing service that I could possibly get. And I felt that um, these guys were actually the people that could do it for me. I also like the fact of the analytics that they provide, right? Yesterday we talked about download numbers and how that is a red herring for a lot of podcasters, and then get caught up in the idea of the download numbers and using that as kind of their measuring stick. And some people can do it. That's cool, and I get it, but that's fine. For me, it's not my measuring stick on anything that we do, and it's not because we don't get the downloads, because we do get the downloads. It's I had to, man. You don't know how long it took me to get out of that. You don't know how long it took me to get out of that mindset of not, looking at the downloads as something that's going to um, be my measuring stick, but something else is. And so when we start to think about the hosting piece, for me, it was like ease of use, ability to get me to all the freaking platforms, all of the platforms, Pandora, iHeartRadio, easily with one click. And that's what Buzzsprout can do. Captivate can do it as well. Like one click, and your RSS is already sent over to them, and you're actually good to go. And bada bing, bada boom, and you're all set, right? So, I think part of the hosting piece for me was just the ability to have somebody that's going to take a lot of the heavy lifting away from me, and actually also provide some tools and techniques and tips that's going to help me uh, enhance the production quality of my podcast as well. They also have, so I use, like I said, I use all Phonics. They have their own. This is Buzzsprout. They have their own sort of mastering pieces. I think it's called, oh my gosh, mix mastering. So right before you upload your podcast, you can run it through um their mastering, software like Alphonics, and then you can upload it. Here's the thing. Captivate.fm actually just partnered with Alphonics. And so if you use so for me, that was another reason for me to potentially go to Captivate.fm, is because I use Alphonics in my workflow with my podcast. So if I use Captivate.fm, that cuts out a piece in my overall workflow that I can actually just go ahead and add and use Captivate.fm to help me with that process. So that was a long way of answering the question. So hopefully I answered your question. If there's anybody out here who has another question, or you have a thought, or if you have a question about podcasting and live streaming, and how the two kind of go together, and you're thinking about something differently, please go ahead and ask your question. Let me make sure I get this back up here. Phone standard, the RSS is the same everywhere, right? Um, what am I missing? You, you, what are you missing relative to the doing it yourself and the hosting? The only thing that you're missing are uh, the bells and whistles that these guys probably offer. And if you're not really into the bells and whistles and you don't need the bells and whistles, then you're fine. You're not missing anything, you know. So I'm not saying you're beating yourself up, but you're fine, right? I think just for other people, who are starting out, myself included, I did. I wanted to get on all the platforms, which is the first thing that you hear about and that you want to do is to get on all the platforms, and you wanted to get on there on all the platforms as easy as possible. Yes, you can take the time and submit your own RSS feed to these platforms and go that route. But the hosting pieces are something that makes it a lot easier. Here's the other thing that's going to be probably coming down the pipe, right? And this is why I wanted to start this community thing, because it's also like me kind of reporting the news in podcasting, if you will. Um, is that YouTube is getting into podcasting, and so what I heard, and I'm not I heard it on Pod News. So James Critland is like kind of like the godfather, if you will, with podcasting. From a podcast news standpoint, he's one of those individuals who helps kind of set standards within podcasting. And he started talking about on his show was that YouTube was going to be getting into the hosting side of it. They were already doing YouTube podcasting, but they're talking about getting into the hosting side of the business because it's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in that side of the business, right? Right, because a lot of these companies, they will charge you based on the number of hours that you upload. So, but here's the thing, pod fade is a real thing. Actually, we have we have a shirt coming out, and Preston So is working on a shirt for us, talking about pod fade, and I'll leave it at that. It's going to be coming out here pretty soon. We're pretty when when I told them about it, they got excited about it, and Cynthia and Andrew, like, for them to get excited about, like, your idea that you present means that it's actually pretty cool. So I'm excited about it. But just think about it. They charge you based on the number of hours that you are allocated to upload. A lot of companies, a lot of podcasts fade after 7 episodes, right? So let's just say you make it past those 7 episodes, you're at a 21, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever it is, but then you kind of take a break and you're not really uploading as much as possible, but you're still paying for like 8 hours, say 6 hours of podcast hours to upload, and you're not maximizing, that the host your host plan, because you're not uploading. So yes, while they're maybe charging you, you're not utilizing the service to its fullest potential. Hence, they're still getting your 12, 16, 18 bucks an hour, a month for your hosting. So think about it in that context. You mentioned the one host has a better phone standard. I don't understand that comment. Better phone standard? I'm not sure. Better? Did I say better phones? I'm not sure if I said better phone standard. What do you mean by better? Did I say better phone standard? I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure if I said better. I'm not particularly sure if we said better phone standard. When I think eh, when I talk about Buzzsprout compared to um, all the other platforms that are out there, I think when I look at them, I look at it in the mind of, you know, um, people creating cars like Tesla, right? And with I don't have a Tesla, but I've heard great things about Tesla. Was that when you have a Tesla, your Tesla is constantly being updated, constantly, right? It's like it's a computer software, right? And someone who has a Tesla, if I'm incorrect, but this is what I've heard, and I've talked to people that have talked about it in this context. It's constantly being uploaded and updated, right? Just like a software, right? Just like I have a Mac. Most people who use Ecamm have Macs. Same thing, right? It's constantly being updated, with everything. The same thing I think about in the same context with your hosting platform. If they are in the business of consistently updating and providing new, very similar to Ecamm, right? Those of us who are in the Ecamm community, right, I'm using right now. I'm using the beta. I'm using the new beta that's out there. I'm loving it, and I'm enjoying it. It's not. I haven't had any bugs. I haven't. Well, I won't say that. I had one bug the other day. I'm not sure if it was Ecamm. Probably wasn't Ecamm. That's probably me, and I know it's probably me. But when I think about hosting, it's the same thing, same context. Is that they're constantly updating their firmware, if you will, right? You talked about the Rodecaster Pro, right? Rodecaster Pro is constantly updating its firmware to make it better, to provide different tools for us to use that makes our overall experience better. It's the same thing with hosting. If the host isn't doing that, if your hosting site isn't doing that, if they're not updating consistently, their firmware, if you will, then for me, I'm not sure if I want to go with that place because it's actually not providing any um, measurable and future value for me to actually be part and to be part of that company, and for me to be giving you for me to give you my money. That's the other piece of it, right? Because the other thing with podcasting, until you get sponsored, you're footing the bill for a lot of this stuff. So roundabout way of maybe talking, maybe answering your question and talking a little bit about that. The other thing that a lot of podcasters who are thinking of going live is they want to count the cost of, and I'm going to talk about this too. Is so when I was going through this process of going live and doing live interviews, my podcast coach, and I'm going to have Charlie on, Charlie Villar on early next year. He said something to me that was really it was really interesting, because he said, Steve, it's either when I go live and I'm having a conversation with somebody, he said, Steve, it's either going to be a live or it's going to be a podcast. And I thought that was interesting because everything here's where you know uh I lose subscribers, right? Or I people may not like this, because everything out there nowadays is the podcast. It is. Sorry, just throwing it out there, right? I am not a purist, right? Like a podcast purist, but the term podcast is really rooted in the delivery system of an audio file via RSS, via RSS, and you on demand download that RSS. Matt, if you're still here, let me know what your thoughts are on that one. Whoever else is in the community, if you're listening or if you're looking at this on a replay, let me know your thoughts. If you're looking at this on YouTube, let me know your thoughts. I would be very, very interested in hearing your thoughts about what you think a podcast is, your definition of a podcast. But the quintessential um, phrase or standard, if you will, podcast. It's a delivery system via RSS that is downloadable on demand. That is what the essence of a podcast is. Now, people have taken the term and using it and turned it into um, the idea of interviews with somebody, and then terming it podcast. And I get it, and I understand how people can actually make that leap, from that to um, podcasting, right? It's like it's hey Laura, how are you doing? How are you doing? Good to see you. And what I would say is that it's ubiquitous, right? Podcasting, the term has just become ubiquitous right now across platforms, across everything. It started out as that, as a delivery system, and whoever's out there, if I'm wrong, if you feel like wrong, or if you have something to add, please go ahead. And I'm 100% game, for this, because in 2007 I started um it was on Blog Talk Radio with my buddy Jerry Barron, and we started a what we thought we can initially considered it a podcast, and it was for husbands by husbands, where we were helping husbands who were thinking about becoming entrepreneurs how to balance being an entrepreneur and also husband. I think at that time I was probably 7 years married and Jerry was 20 years married, so we had different perspectives, and we heard the term podcast, and we're like, what the hell is we were pretty savvy guys back then. We felt we were like, what the hell's the podcast? And we heard about it, and we started to take our Blog Talk Radio and we created it into a delivery service with the RSS feed, downloadable, yada yada yada. And we had what we felt was like the quintessential podcast, and we did that for about 2 or 3 years. Um, so my roots and my perspective, if you will, kind of run deep a little bit with this stuff. I am not um, like I said, a purist of any sorts, but I'm just thinking about how it started to kind of where it is today. Oops. Oh my gosh. Oh geez. What the hell happened? I got my, oh, all right. There we go. All right. Let me make sure. Hey, hello, Laura. Hey, you have a question. Have you ever broken down the pros and cons of the various podcast distribution platforms? You know, not yet. It's on my list, and that's a great question. So the pros and cons of the distribution platforms. I like that question. I'm going to get back to you on that one in a second. I want to make sure I get with Matt too. My definition is old school. RSS carries the metadata, an audio file or a video file. You use software that reads the RSS to consume the content. Yeah, 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 yeah. People launch shows on Facebook and call them podcasts. Drives me nuts. People say, I have a podcast. I ask, what's the RSS? They say, what's that? Yeah, 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 buddy. Yeah, buddy. That's what's that? Let's go back to let's go. I said if start that. I don't use this, and I'm not using my StreamYard tonight either. My Stream Deck either. So James asks, have you ever broken down the pros and cons of the various podcast distribution platforms? You know, I have in my mind, and I actually have it on my notions. I have it on my notions as a topic to break down all five. So what I typically try to do, James, with our workflow is I create the blog post first. Um, and then when we write the blog post, and then I typically, especially when we use this for podcasters live, a lot of the times, some of the times actually, I actually yesterday I got into a zone and I created a whole like 2 or 3 videos that I'm going to be recording. Um, but we are looking into talking about all the different distribution platforms and the host. When you say distribution, I assume you say host. I assume you mean hosting, platforms, because there is some differences in them. I mean, there are some massive. I won't say massive. There are a lot of differences in the overall platforms, um, and what they can offer you, right? Because that's going to be the key. Here's the thing: people get so wrapped up, in, well, I with this person, or I'm using this platform, I'm using that platform, and then I ask a question. Well, what are you trying to achieve with your podcast? It's a great question, I think, and if I do say so myself, what are you trying to achieve with your podcast? Are you trying to are you trying to grow your brand awareness because you have a business? Let's say you have a business and you are trying to grow your brand awareness and your overall thought leadership, right? Which is what a lot of people do. I've done it. I'm doing it myself, right? And you're also providing, an outlet and a platform for people to hear and make a connection with you and your brand because you are your brand. Or are you using a podcast because you want to be behind the scenes, you have something to say, and you feel like you want to get it out there to the masses because there's somebody that needs to hear what you have to say within your niche, and that's why you're podcasting. There's a passion, there's something. So it all depends on your why initially, and then based on your why, it's just like a phone almost, right? Or a car, right? How are you going to utilize this car? Here's the thing. um I when I was younger, I bought a Mercedes 190e. Did I need it? No. I bought the car for show, right? I could have easily bought a Hyundai, Honda Accord, but I bought the 190e for show, right? Because I was young and I'm stupid, and I was just like, I can afford it. And that's it. Some people are the same way when they think about what they can do with their podcast. And well, I want to go with the big name, host, because everybody says that that's the right one to go for. Well, guess what? Maybe it's a matter of going with there are a lot of smaller hosting platforms out there that will probably give you what you need. But for me, I wanted to future proof a little bit of my podcast, and I wanted to have some to be able to scale, and my hosting platform, um, allows me to scale. So thinking about where you currently are and what you want to get out of your hosting site and what you want to get out of your podcast initially would actually help you with that. It's the same thing with your live stream platform, right? It's the same thing. I have used them all. When I say I used them all, I've used them all. And for me, the biggest piece was that, is Zcam cheap? No, it's not. But for me, it's a matter of how can I get a really great production quality, um, for the audience. And for me, that's the most important because I think it helps with the messaging, and it allows my message to resonate with people, as well as provide a solid type of platform for people to actually see me, and also see the content that I want to produce to put out there. James, correct. Okay, so oh my goodness, hey Crystal, you got me caught. You got me going down. I was going down this little diatribe, man. We start talking about hosting and podcasting stuff. Oh my gosh, Crystal Prophet, how are you doing? Oh, hey James. She says hello, James. Hey Crystal. Oh, I am stoked. I got Crystal. We got you. We got you lined up for the show at the beginning of next year. Oh man, I'm excited. Crystal, you got to check out here it is. Where it is. Where is it at? There you go. You got to check out if you're free this Wednesday. I got this I got these two guys here on Podcasters Live, which I'm extremely stoked about having these guys on Podcasters Live. Crystal, I was saying that I was going through my analytics and I got a lot of guys, and I have some several women and females that are on my from a demographic standpoint, but I needed some eye candy for my Podcasters Live, and these two will provide that provide that I joke and I'm cracking up because James he and I were messing around. We're talking about Junaid. Junaid is like, look at this guy. He's beautiful. He's a beautiful guy. So I'm trying to up my 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 quotient of subscribers by having some good looking guys on there too. So I'm excited. Hey, Chris, I'm so glad you are here. You and Steve are both passionate about podcasts. Yes, we are. We are going to chop it up, and we are going to talk about, how to have a successful podcast in 2022. I'm excited to have Crystal on Podcasters Live. We are booked up. I want to say all the way through March, and we're moving into April, which is actually pretty cool, man. It is pretty cool. I'm thinking about doing two episodes on that Wednesday, um, one earlier and then one in the evening. I'm not sure about that. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But James, to get back to Crystal, I'm so happy you're here. I really appreciate you stopping in. I really am. Uh, the platform is all about, honestly, it is all about your why and what you want to get out of that platform and get out of that. Like we talked, I'm going to use the same thing with the car analogy. What do you want to get out of the car, right? Why are you buying? Like for me, like why did I buy that 190e? I didn't need the 190e. Same thing with your platform, right? Well, I want to get the best platform. Well, I honestly feel like you need to get what you need to get for where you currently are and scale up. It's just like gear. It's just like gear, right? Listen to me. When I was doing my research for the podcast for Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy, or the Worthy podcast, which was the very first one. Man, do you not know? I looked at the Shure SM7B, which is what I'm rocking today. Man, I wasn't gonna pay $400 plus a cloud lifter plus a preamp when I'm just starting out. Some people do. God bless them. It's cool. You want to make that investment at the very beginning, 100%, and I will help you. Walk you through that process. But for me, initially, no, I had to understand where I was to understand where I wanted to go, and then kind of scale myself up to that level. And that's what we want from from Podcasters Live. Our goal, our number one goal is to help you understand how to take your audio podcast, because if you're an audio podcaster, and then translate your concept, your idea into a live stream. But here's the thing that you need to understand. A live streaming is very different than your audio podcast. It is a lot different. The production for your live stream is vastly different than the production for your audio podcast. We get a lot of people that either DM me and they almost come off like it's super easy for them to go from being a podcaster to doing live streaming. And for some it is, but for a lot it's not, because there is something different in this medium of doing live stream that a lot of people don't understand. And I'm still learning and I'm still growing, but I feel like I have enough information to be able to teach you how to be successful in this process. My dude, what is going on? Never Call Me Again has the best name for a podcast ever, 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 hands down. And you deserve, and, and you deserve that, Mr. Robert. Hey, I hope hopefully you're still on here. So, Robert, I reached out to, um, you introduced me to him, Mr. William Smith, um, Daring and Creative Podcast. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because I think you and him worked on on a couple of videos together. So I reached out to him and I asked him if you and him would be cool. I'm asking this live, which is crazy. This is another reason I love live stream too, because you never know what can happen. I asked him if you two, if he was cool with you being on a live stream, Podcasters Live, with me, because I like to try to have two people if I can, two or more. But if I can't, and got some really cool people, some big people like Mrs. Crystal Prophet, just do solos. But he was stoked. He was stoked about it. So be on the lookout for an email for you and Mr. William Smith, not Will Smith, people. William Smith from Daring Creative Podcasting. He did he actually was the one, if I could be very honest with you, who started doing some live streaming. Not really, he wasn't doing live streaming podcasting. He was doing videos talking about podcasting, and I just loved his vibe. I loved everything that he was talking about and everything that he was doing, and he was the impetus for a lot of things that I've done, kind of over this journey with me from a podcasting and then also live streaming standpoint as well too. The one question that we get all the time is, we're right at an hour. If you guys have a question, if you have something that it's been burning inside of you about this whole podcasting thing, and you're thinking about this idea about how to combine the two for live stream, and that, Steve, you're crazy. Live streaming does not help. I got some statistics that I can present that will blow your mind about the live streaming industry. And if there's some thoughts that you've been thinking about that you're like, I'm not sure that this is something that um, is my cup of tea. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here, and I get it. The other side of it too, I'll use myself, is that when I started to go down this route, I am not a person in my life that gets intimidated easily. I'm just not. I'm not a big guy, right? But cool. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here. I'm about to jump off myself here shortly, but I want to make a couple of points. Thanks, Matt, for being here. Is that when I first started learning about live streaming, I was super intimidated because a lot of people made it look easy, very similar to podcasts, right? We started listening to these podcasts. We listen to NPR. We listen to, you know, you, uh, all these different people, Jordan Harbinger, right? John Lee Dumas, right? And we hear these guys and we're like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. Man, do you know how many episodes they've actually produced to sound that way? Same thing with live streaming, right? Do you know how many people? I mean, how many live streams people have actually done? Here's the other thing that you don't see, which is why I love the Ecamm community. It's the practice. It is the practice. Okay, I'm good. I don't care. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. I gotta do this. And because this is live, and I want you guys to understand um, that I love live streaming, and I love doing impromptu stuff. My team, my team, um, I won't say they hate me, and because I'm super spontaneous, And I don't know. And if you can't hear this, then it defeats, it truly defeats the purpose. And I hope it doesn't. And I hope you can when I'm going to go here. And I hope you can hear this when I play this, because if there's anybody out there that understands, this is Allen Iverson. And the reason I jump on here real quick with him and talk to him about or have him on here is because I mentioned the word practice, and he actually goes on this tangent about practice, and it's actually pretty famous. And I hope you can hear
If a coach
this.
say I miss practice,
If you can't
and
hear
y'all
it, then
hear
let
it,
me let
then
me know.
that's
If you
that.
can, that's great.
I mean, I might have missed one practice this year, but if somebody say he doesn't come to practice, it can be one practice out of all the practices this year. That's enough. If I can't practice, I can't practice, man. If I'm hurt, I'm hurt. I mean,
Can you hear it, James? Let me make sure.
simple as that. It ain't about that. I mean, it's not about that at all. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but it's easy to, this, not a game, not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice. I know I'm supposed to be there. I know I'm supposed to lead by example. I know that. And I'm not shoving it aside, like it don't mean anything. I know it's important. I do. I honestly do. But we talking about practice, man. What are we talking about? Practice? We talking about practice, man. We talking about practice.
All right, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave it there on that one. I love that. I love that. I love that scene because he's talking about practice. He's talking about practice, live streaming, podcasting, and then trying to transfer this from podcasting to live streaming. It involves practice, not just the game, but the practice. We are talking about practice, and we want you to practice. One of the things with Podcasters Live is that we truly feel that we want to help you understand and be that person that's going to help close that gap from you with your audio podcast to you understanding how live streaming can grow your audience over time and also enhance the brand, because you are your brand. You are your podcast. Your podcast is truly an outcropping of who you are. If it's not, man, maybe rethink that, because the best podcasts that I know, they have a major piece of whoever the hosts are within that podcast, and it's evident, and that's why they're successful. Same thing with live streaming. Our goal is to help you kind of bridge that gap. Our goal is to help you understand the importance of podcasting, but moving into live streaming so that you can be your authentic self and that you can be successful in this process. If you have any questions, if you have anything that you want to talk about, an idea, I actually put something in the group today about several topics that we are going to be talking about. Um, I don't want to go too far over my hour. I am going to be posting something, so I'm just going to post it in the community. We are in a process of taking everything that we're talking about, whether it's on Sunday and tonight, into a different a different level coming next year. And when I say different level, it is going to be a different level. Some of the things that we offer now are going to be great, but then next year we are going to be taking everything to the next level. We are going to be talking and moving everything from a podcasters live standpoint into the group. And we're going to be talking about either like a podcasters academy or podcasters university, where you can learn, grow, and implement some of the different things that we are going to be talking about. So we have a couple of logo designs and a couple of things that I'm going to be putting in the group that I want to get your feedback on as well. So be on the lookout for that. Hey, if you got any value out of this, please make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment. If you're on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. We really appreciate you. If you are in the Facebook community, right? Here's what we ask, and also YouTube. We ask that you share it with somebody today. Just one person. I'm not asking you to share it with 10 people. Just one person. What we're doing in this community and what we're doing on YouTube as well. We ask that you go ahead and share that. All right. So, as we always say, have a great night. Keep podcasting and make sure you hit that go live button. Have a great night. God bless. I'm going to make sure I hit the right button. Nope, that's the wrong button. I got to make sure I hit the right button. That's the wrong button. I'm trying to close this puppy out, James, and I can't close it out properly. Where is my closing scene? This is what happens when you go live. This is what happens when you go live.